All right, guys, so we got to talk about CNN, who seems to think that we have a problem. Okay, we have a public health crisis in this country, particularly a problem with doctors. Okay, and the problem that CNN wants us to be so concerned about is the problem of there being a shortage of black doctors in the country, which apparently again means that there is some type of public health harm or crisis because there's not enough black doctors. Take a look.
Right now, fewer than 6% of doctors in the U.S. identify as black or African American. That's despite the fact that the community makes up 12% of the country's total population, and that's raising concerns about the impact on public health.
CNN health reporter Jacqueline Howard joins us now. So, Jacqueline, what is being done to rectify this?
That's the thing, Bianna. More needs to be done to make sure that our physician workforce here in the U.S. reflects the diversity seen among patients. Now, what has been done so far? We've seen more efforts to get STEM programs in grade schools. At the medical school level, we've seen more mentorship programs, particularly for students of color. But when you look at the physician workforce right now, active doctors at this moment, we're still seeing 5.7% are black or African American, and that's compared with, as Victor said, 12% of the U.S. population. When you look at Native Americans, less than 1% of doctors are Native American, and that's compared with up to 2% of patients. When you look at Hispanic or Latino physicians, 6.9% are doctors, compared with up to 18% of the U.S. population. So those differences are what's concerning here, and experts say we need to do more to make sure our doctor workforce reflects the diversity seen among patients.
Yeah, we need to do more because the research shows, and we've discussed this before, the benefits of a more diverse workforce. Sometimes doctors will dismiss the concerns or symptoms of a certain demographic. Explain what the studies show.
Exactly, Victor. And research shows that when we have a more diverse physician workforce, there's more understanding and more trust between the patient and the doctor. If the doctor has an understanding of the patient's cultural experiences, cultural background, lived experiences, especially when it comes to racism or discrimination or other aspects of their life, that can help with that physician-patient relationship. And we also see that patients are more likely to follow a physician's medical advice if they do have a feeling of being heard and understood. So all this plays a role in really improving public health, Victor and Bianna.
Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but if I was having a heart attack, I got shot, I was having some type of medical crisis or emergency, and I had to go to the emergency room to be seen, I don't think that I would give a damn about the race or the skin color of the doctor, okay? What I would care about is the most qualified physician / medical professional treating me, right? That's what I care about, okay? I don't care about the race. I don't care about skin color. I don't care about their ethnicity. I don't give a damn about any of that, okay? This is, again, an attempt by the woke mainstream liberal media to make a problem out of something that's really not a problem. It's not an issue, because what they're trying to say is that, well, too many of our doctors are white, right? They're too white. So therefore we need less white doctors and we need more, so-called doctors of color. Okay. You notice how they never have a problem with Asians being, overrepresented or whatever, right? What they're really concerned about is whites. Okay. There's too many white doctors, right? Amazing. But I'm gonna tell you something. I would be concerned about a person's skin color if what is happening continues to happen when we have this affirmative action for medical doctors that makes me question the credentials and the merit behind the doctor and whether or not they actually studied and went through the same rigor that other doctors went to become a doctor. Because what they're doing as a way to try to get more black doctors is that they're not encouraging black folks to become doctors. They're not trying to promote people like Ben Carson, okay, in the community to say, hey, look, this is something that black children should aspire to. No. They're more concerned about having black children aspire to be George Floyd's, right? Woke activists, right? That's what they're actually really more concerned about. What they're actually really doing, okay, is they are de-emphasizing, trying to take away standardized tests for med school, right? So they don't want to look at meritocracy anymore. They don't want to look at objective measures like GPA and the MCAT score. They don't want to look at that anymore. They want to just hire based off race. Okay, they want race-based admissions, right? You have plenty of articles, right, and plenty of news out there about how some medical schools are eliminating bias, right, by basically relying less on the MCAT and GPA scores. Okay, they're taking a more holistic view of the whole student, which could dramatically increase the number of black medical students. Again, what does that tell you just based off common sense? What does that tell you, right? Just basic logic. So are you telling me that black folks are too stupid to be able to compete against Asians and whites to have, good medical test scores, right? Good GPAs, right? They're too stupid to be doctors. So guess what? We got to lower the standards. We got to get rid of standardized tests. We got to get rid of the only way that we can really measure somebody's merit, okay, objectively. Get rid of that because black folks can't compete. Again, if you're black, you should be offended by this, right? They frame this as some type of, well, we're trying to help black folks out. And it's like, no. What you're doing is that you have no expectations for black people, low expectations. And this is not soft bigotry. This is hard bigotry. Hard bigotry. Because I can tell you, I worked in an industry that was mostly white as well too, right? Investments. And when I was taking my Series 7, which is just basically a basic investment license, I basically had the highest score in my class. Well, how did I get the highest score? Well, because I studied my ass off every single day, right? I didn't wait till the last minute to start studying. I started studying 3 months in advance for the test, and I did nothing but study, right? Even when I was in college, I started studying before I started my first job. And lo and behold, when I started taking practice tests, I was doing good. I was ahead of everybody else. Why? Because I put in the work. Had nothing to do with my skin color, had everything to do with the work, right? So if you want black people to score better on the MCAT and have better GPAs, I don't know, why don't you do things like, encourage black people to study more? Hey, you need to study harder, right? You need to get a better GPA. That's what you need to be telling people. What you don't need to be telling people is that, well, don't worry about it. We don't really want to, have you take the MCAT because you're too stupid to get as good of a score as everybody else. Don't worry, we're just going to let you be a doctor anyways, right? Again, that's how you have bad outcomes in the medical industry, right? That's how you sow distrust in the medical industry. That's how you smear black doctors who are qualified. Because I have a friend who's a black doctor who's very qualified, and he studied his ass off, and he worked his ass off since high school to be a doctor. That was his dream. And he worked. He put in effort, right? I don't want people like him to be looked down upon as, I don't know, this guy might be less qualified, because you're lowering the standards so that more black people can be doctors. Again, this is a disgrace. This is the exact opposite of the principles that this country was founded on. And, they're not just doing it for this. They're also doing it for other key professions, right? Professions where people have lives in their hands. Like, for example, being a pilot. Now, all of a sudden, they want more women and people of color to be pilots.
Our series, Unifying America, we are recognizing people who are trying to right injustices and bring communities together. We like the thought of that. In the airline industry, less than 6% of all pilots and flight engineers in this country are women, and only about 10% of that number are black Americans, Asian, Hispanic, or Latino. So first on CBS This Morning, we like when we can say that. I'm going to say it again. First on CBS This Morning, United Airlines is the only major U.S. airline to own a flight school. It's announcing its new plan to train 5,000 pilots by 2030, and at least half of them will be women or people of color. Errol Barnett has the story.
2 decades ago, near runways like these, a Texas girl was discovering her love of aviation.
My grandmother would take my sisters and I to the airport to watch the airplanes take off and land.
A 6-year-old, Tashiana Smith, was hooked.
We could actually smell that jet fuel for a couple of days, and I still love that smell today.
So you've been addicted to jet fuel since you were a kid?
Yes, sir.
24-year-old Smith is on a lifelong quest to become a commercial airline pilot, an expensive ambition. Flight training costs an average of $100,000. So over the years, Smith earned several scholarships through nonprofit organizations. She clearly remembers the first time an instructor handed over the controls.
Once I started turning left and right, I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
She's following in the flight path of people like Marianne Schaefer, a 32-year veteran in the industry who is United Airlines' chief pilot.
I believe it's related to just the thrill of taking off and controlling the airplane and landing. It really is just a feeling of empowerment.
But both Smith and Schaefer say they'd like to see more female representation in the flight deck. Only 7% of United Airlines pilots are women, one of the highest percentages in the industry. And 13% of its pilots are people of color.
They simply don't have the access or the opportunity.
In an exclusive interview with CBS News, United CEO Scott Kirby is announcing a new effort to bring balance to the flight deck.
We're excited at United to be announcing the United Aviation Academy to address the structural issues with the makeup of our pilots.
Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but just like, having a doctor, okay, to treat you during a medical emergency or whatever, if I'm flying in a plane, I don't give a damn about the skin color or the genitalia of the pilot as long as they're the most qualified, okay? As long as they've been through all of the tests, all of the schooling that everybody else has been through, and they've not been given any shortcuts because of their genitalia or their race or their skin color, okay? I'm trying to figure out how in the world are you going to make black folks and women want to be pilots more than they already do now, okay? Because to me, it sounds like, I don't know, maybe you're lowering some standards. Not sure if that's the case, but I'm just saying. The woke religion, right, basically, gets rid of common sense, okay? Again, they do this for any industry that is overwhelmingly white, but they don't do this for industries that are overwhelmingly black, right? Like, for example, the NFL or the NBA, right? You will never hear them say, hey, there's a shortage of white athletes out there, right? There's a shortage of whites that are competing in the NBA and the NFL. We need more of those. They never do that because it's all agreed that, hey, this should be a meritocracy. It's a meritocracy. The best of the best compete regardless of their skin color. Doesn't matter if the league is overwhelmingly one race or one skin color. It's meritocracy. But when it comes to literally anything else, meritocracy goes out the window, right? If it's overwhelmingly white, that's a problem. The most qualified, again, that's an issue having the most qualified people. You got to get so-called people of color in there. You got to get it more diverse. And what they do is that they lower standards, right? And once you start lowering those standards, guess what happens? You get worse quality. And also on top of that, you create these negative stereotypes about the so-called people of color that are in those industries that, hey, well, this person might be less qualified, right? They're affirmative action hire because, hey, they're only in the industry. They only have the job because they're black, right? They must have went through less strenuous tests, or they must not be qualified enough to have this job, right? And again, that's dangerous, okay? It's dangerous for multiple reasons. It hurts the people that you're trying to help, and it also really just hurts people in general because having less qualified candidates be doctors and pilots and stuff like that, again, that puts people's lives in danger, okay? Diversity quite literally can be dangerous, right? Diversity can be dangerous. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.